Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to another Friday edition of EPM's Empower Hour Live. We are so happy to have you guys here with us, and it's going to be another awesome episode. Today, we have Mary Quinn with us. She is the mother of EPM's own Claire. Claire is on our IT team, and she is pretty much the one who's hustling you guys to add pictures to
your team. She's definitely messaged out. Yeah. So say hi.
Sorry about it.
If you don't have a picture on your Microsoft Teams, please add a photo to your Microsoft Teams. It's super easy. If you have any troubles of how to do that, please reach out to Claire. She can help you understand that.
She's going to start adding.
Very happy to help.
She's going to add cat pictures.
I'm just going to start adding stock images of random people.
Just people like this.
Like if you see yourself as a baseball one day, then
I'm just going to start adding really funny pictures of myself.
Yeah, you got to make
Oh my God, that would be great.
Oh yeah, make them all yourself, just different crazy faces.
Oh yeah, that's the plan. I'm sure Mark will love that. That was his vision when he started this all.
Yeah, Mark wanted, yeah. Just to see Claire.
Right. So in EPM's fashion of keeping family tight and we have so many awesome fundamentals, and one of them is that we like to cherish and promote EPM. Claire is doing that in her own household. She welcomed her mother to the Power Hour Live, and it's a very, very awesome situation because Miss Mary Quinn is a human systems integration
human scientist.
She has a lot going on.
Yeah, we got that title. So why don't you take over, Mary?
Please, Mary.
Tell us your title. Tell us what you do. Tell us who you are. Welcome to the EPM.
Thank you, guys. So I am a human systems chief scientist at Leidos.
We were close.
Leidos is basically a technology company, and most of our contract work is with the U.S. government. We do some civil work and a lot of health work, but we do a lot of intelligence work and defense work. And so I am the round peg in the square hole because they're all engineers, and I'm the person that says, wait a minute, there's a human in this system somewhere. How do we make sure that the human can use this technology that we're building? So that's what I do.
So I was reading your the bio that you sent over, and you're working on some really cool things. Tell us a little bit about the things that you're working on, what they're for, who they're for, and things like that. I think that's a great place to start. And then
Sure. So I'm pretty passionate about this, so let me know if I talk too much.
No, please. That's you. The whole platform. This whole hour is for you to tell us.
So the project that I'm currently working on is out of the Air Force Research Lab. It's an Air Force Vanguard program, meaning that the Air Force is placing a lot of money to do this very quickly. And we are building unmanned vehicles that will fly in team with fighter pilots. So these are not drones. They're not maneuvering them from the ground. They are going to be completely autonomous, and they will be able to fly a mission with a live person as their wingman, whatever. And so right now, my job is to make sure that the humans can talk to the automated vehicles and the automated vehicles can talk to the humans. So how do they communicate with each other? And in that communication, of course, you know, Ella, you mentioned earlier, you do some work with GUIs and the interfaces. So we're building an interface for the pilots. What does the pilot need to know? Hey, is this dude going to crash into me? Or, you know, are they going to run out of fuel or whatever? And then we're also building the interfaces for the ground control people who are watching the whole scene. But our major role, though, is how do we build this system so that the human trust that this autonomous vehicle is going to do what they're supposed to do, not cause any harm, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm really excited about this. No one's ever done it. This is a mission no one's ever flown. So we kind of have to make this up and try to figure it out before anybody does it.
And when is this scheduled to happen, to come fruition? Like now?
A couple weeks. So we are currently flying some prototype planes. We have the planes with pilots. We're testing it now. We do a lot of simulation work. So we model this on computers and simulate what if we did this and what if we did that, because of course we can't test that in the air because somebody could get hurt. So we are supposed to be finished with this by 2025.
Oh, wow. So we already have Jackie. She says, she's up near you or somewhere above you, but she said, "Can I please take you to dinner? You are fascinating me. I am an automations architect."
Oh,
So,
wow.
Oh my God, really?
I knew Jackie would be all over this.
Absolutely.
yeah, she said
Dude,
yes.
that's a
I
re-
wish
that's a
I wish
record.
Jackie, you were hosting this today because she's geeking out. So Jackie,
Oh.
please ask all the questions because this is like, over my head. My question is, okay, so how do you build this system that integrates the human side of this to, be able
First of all, let me shout out 10 minutes in and you already got axed out. That's amazing.
Yeah.
yeah, 10 minutes in and then can I ask that? That's hilarious.
Awesome. Yay. So everybody knows about Tesla, right? So everybody wants one of those you can drive without touching it.
Right.
So that's how we build it, basically. There are certain rules of the road, right, that you have to follow. Stop means you have to stop, right, Claire? Full stop.
Yes.
And then you go, red light means stop, green light means goes, there's a line in the middle that you don't cross. So there are kind of rules of the road that are naturally programmed into this architecture. And then we use sensors, or Tesla use sensors to determine whether you are in between the lines, whether you're stopping at stop signs, et cetera, et cetera. So those are kind of the basic rules of the road. Well, pilots have those same rules too. They go what's called undergraduate pilot training, and they're taught how to fly. They're taught about altitude. They're taught about, pitch and yaw and all that stuff, and, fuel maintenance, all that kind of stuff. So we program that into the system's architecture so that the plane knows how to fly. And then beyond that, you know how to drive. There's certain circumstances that are kind of weird. You see a stop sign that maybe has snow in it, or there's mud covering up the line between the lanes in a highway. So there are instances where the normal rules of the road, you kind of have to use intuition and judgment on. So we use artificial intelligence, machine learning, reinforcement learning to, as people are flying these in simulation, to collect all this other kind of data. That, what happens if, what happens when, what happens if you're flying and all of a sudden you fly into weather that you didn't expect, so you didn't plan the mission for. What do you do in those circumstances? So we are able to model and simulate this and use artificial intelligence, machine learning to collect data on all of these so we can program the system to react appropriately during those situations. And because we do this over and over and over, because machines can do this tens of thousands of times in just an hour. So because we do this so many times, pilots begin to realize, I can trust this system. There may be some weird things going on, but they're trying to find out what those weird things are, and they're building the system around that as well. But did that answer your question, or?
I'm having that did answer. I'm sorry, having a slightly geeked out moment too. Like growing up, I played video games. You probably already know where I'm going with it. But there's been several video games that are played where they're spaceship games where you get power-ups, and some of the power-ups give you a satellite, like a satellite airplane beside you that fires and stuff in tandem with you. To me, this is sounding similar to that. So
Yeah.
So
hey, science fiction is really the impetus for a lot of the technology we build.
Right. So
yep.
That's awesome. So maybe a fighter, it could have one manned pilot, and he could have a fleet, or maybe 6 or 7 following behind him. That he's all controlling with a user interface or something. That's just amazing to me.
So LA, right now we're testing with 2 unmanned vehicles. Our goal by the end of or January of 2022 will be 4 unmanned vehicles. Our long term is 100 to 1.
Exactly.
So how do we do that? One person can they fly a fighter plane, which is no small task in itself.
Right.
Plus take care of 100 other folks. So that's part of my job too. How do we maintain control and authority and custody of all these 100 in a way that allows the pilot to maintain what they're doing? So do we group them together based on the skill they can do? Because they're not all doing the same thing, right? Some can drop bombs, some have sensors, some have radar, some have LiDAR. So how do we group them in a way that the human can maintain situation awareness and keep their workload to a point that they're not overwhelmed?
Honestly, I think video games are very good training grounds for that.
I have worked, so I'm not a gamer.
This is actually super, super funny. She did a whole experiment where she had to play Guild Wars.
Okay.
80 hours a week, was it?
No, 80 hours, 2 weeks.
2 weeks. And what's really funny, the funny thing about all of this is Jack, our very own Jack Johnson,
Never heard of
is like an internationally he's like an internationally ranked Guild Wars player.
All right.
He played that game a lot when he was a kid, so I think that was really funny. We told him about that project that she worked on when I was in middle school, I think. But
Yes,
it's funny that
it's amazing how much you can learn, because like I said, you multitask. You got your left thumbstick, your right thumbstick. You're using like all 10 of your fingers while you're playing with some of these controllers nowadays. So
well, it's funny. She'd never played a video game in her life, but she and Jack were playing Guild Wars at the same time and didn't even know it.
Right, I can see it. I can see it being an awesome breeding ground for.
So that's exactly right. So also, if you think about this system that we're building, we don't have pilots trained to do that now. So there's just no training for it because no one's done it.
Right.
We've flown with drones, but drones are controlled by people on the ground. So you got a human in that loop to make sure that you're thinking like a human, right? So we've never had a pilot fly with an autonomous vehicle before. So anyhow, so who will be the pilots? These are people that are in high school and middle school right now.
Right.
And so what did they feel comfortable with as an interface? A game.
Right.
So we're looking at games, and probably coming up in the next couple months is we're going to start interviewing kids who play video games to find out what they like in the interface, what they expect, what makes them comfortable and trusting.
Exactly. Oh my God, this is yeah. I'm a science fiction geek. This is awesome.
You want to be in our study?
I'm sorry.
You want to be in our study?
I was just telling Blake I would love to be in.
Yeah,
Jackie's
say yes. Say yes.
Yes. On outside too. He's a video game geek too. So yeah, that's awesome.
So there are a few questions. I'm going to skip to ask these questions really quickly.
You have a lot of questions.
We're going to go stoptional from Allie. That's hilarious because you were talking.
Yeah, she only said that because I crashed her car one time, but he hit me. I didn't hit him.
That was in reference to the car, the Teslas, I think.
Don't ride with Claire.
That belongs to us. That's funny. That's what they said about me. I'm a confident driver.
Confident and competent are two different things.
Look at that mom is coming out. Look at the mom.
All right, so this is from John Crane. He wants to know, how long do you see this being used until enough data is collected to allow for full automation? This sounds like a baby step towards Skynet.
I was going to say Skynet. I didn't want to say Skynet, but I was going to say Skynet.
So we're already using it. We're flying very basic missions with the Skyborgs. That's what we call them, Skyborgs.
Oh my God! You're gonna kill us. You're gonna kill us.
Yeah. So we're already flying basic missions with, basically it is takeoff and landing, which a ground person does, the takeoff and landing part. So they take off, and then they follow a route to get here. I'm a fighter pilot talking with my hands. Sorry. They follow a route to get to wherever they're supposed to be, their target audience. And then they follow the mission, and then they fly out. But the missions are very, very scripted. So we do mission planning. You'll go do this. You'll change to this altitude. You'll stay here, and then you'll go to this point and loiter for a little while, fly around, see what you can see. And then you need to go here, and then you launch back up and land. So it's very, very basic. We're already doing that. Nice. So it's going to be probably at least 2025 before we start doing more interesting types of missions.
It's amazing.
So baby steps.
Can we ask Jack this question?
Yeah, just real quick. I know you're at Leidos, right? But so are you guys in competition with Lockheed and BAE?
Not particularly on this project. We do a lot of work with them. So because this is a Vanguard program, Leidos is leading the integration. So we, as part of the Vanguard program, we are constantly going out and looking at other pieces of industry to find out if we can bring them in. So we are trying to circle the whole everybody. We don't want to recreate something that somebody's already done. In fact, this week I flew to Huntsville, Alabama to look at some stuff that they're doing it's a project called DARPA ACE. And DARPA ACE is a bunch of planes, autonomous vehicles, airplanes, flying together on a mission. And what can we learn from them? So what they've already, all the software that they have already created, the machine learning tools that they've already started collecting data on, how can we take that and use that in our system so that the taxpayers don't have to pay for us to do that all over again? So we're very collaborative with this project.
So my parents live in Huntsville, Alabama. My mom works on Redstone Arsenal. She's part of the missile guidance system and of a lot of things. So
of course, I know that. Yeah. I know that system. Yes, that's wonderful. I could live in Huntsville. I love that place.
It's amazing. It is amazing. It's boring to me as a young person, but it's amazing. The food is awesome. I mean,
yeah, they have every restaurant you can imagine. This is my first time there. I was very impressed. And then someone said, yeah, it's really impressive until a tornado comes in. I'm like,
yeah, there's a lot of
never mind.
There's a lot of money in Huntsville.
Yeah.
Jackie wants to know, how much do you utilize drone data and layer that into the live simulations?
So we use drone data to help build the basics. That's really good. Jackie, we got to meet.
Right.
I know she just messaged me and was like, I'll fly. I'll fly there.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll send you my mom's email. Don't worry.
We use any data that we can get. You know, we do a lot of work on drones also. In fact, I'm working another project now where we're building what we call collaborative, cooperative drone systems with humans in the loop that can go out after storms, speaking of tornadoes, and assess damage. So they assess, especially in rural areas, because sometimes that's hard to get to or hard to know what the problem is. So the drones will go out and assess damage. We have like a baseline knowledge of all the electrical poles and stuff, so they can come and check to see if they're down, if they're leaning, if something that's laying on top of it. And not only can they do that, they can give information back to we call them the C2, the command and control person, and say, hey, this is not only down, but it's blocking a road. And so we need about 4 people with these tools and this part of equipment to get here, but you're going to have to come during this road because you can't get through it on the other road. So we're working also, this is part of our civil work. So also we're doing something very similar with wildfires for California. So instead of sending people, because a lot of drones and a lot of the autonomous vehicles that you use, they go into situations that are dangerous, that we don't really want a human there if we can help it. So we're also using drones to look at wildfires, go into campgrounds to make sure people aren't there, so we can tell people to evacuate right away. We'll know, what's going on, so we know if we need to save people. So, but we take a lot. The people that are working on that project actually work on the Skyborg project with us too.
Skyborg. I'm writing Skyborg. That sounds awesome.
Well, you can Google Skyborg. It's public information.
I'm thinking of an animal, Skyborg. I don't know.
Speaking of the user interface, you're bringing in younger kids to find out how they can probably interface with these new technology. We have Christy in the chat says, what about having glasses that has an interface on it, a Google Glass type thing?
So we do some work with virtual reality. Part of it's classified. So let me pause a second so I don't get everybody in trouble.
Just whisper it to us. Just whisper.
We do create virtual reality environments where we can test stuff. Test stuff that would be difficult to test because it would require a lot of equipment. It would require a lot of, sometimes once you do it once, you're done. You can't really use that person to do it again because they're privy to what you're doing. So we use virtual reality in that situation.
Instead of virtual, I think she was thinking of like a heads-up display. Yes. So the pilot. Perfect. I'm glad you mentioned that. The pilots, we call PVI, the piloted vehicle interface, will probably be heads-up display. Okay. It probably will not be on the cockpit. Part of that will be heads-up display. Nice. So right now we're looking at F-35s, but we've got to expand to, part of the project is to expand to other platforms. So it could be a F-15, it could be whatever else is new too. But yeah, some of those do have heads-up display technology. I'm sorry. No problem. Just so you know, the F-15 and stuff like that are different types of fighter jets that she's describing.
Yep.
Actually, there's a motorcycle helmet that a friend of mine purchased that has a digital heads-up display that displays speed and vehicles on the left and right of you. It's pretty awesome. It's $1,200 or something like that. But it's awesome.
So you're gonna get it soon,
right?
Yeah.
Shalonda in the comment mentions that drones would be good also for claims adjusters and stuff like that. And it's actually funny.
For what? I'm sorry.
Adjusters.
For claims adjusters.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think I had a hurricane. I had 5 trees hit my house in North Carolina about 3 or 4 years ago, and they sent a drone out to assess the damage.
Right. State Farm sent the drone out to my house like 5 days ago to try to pitch a new homeowners insurance for it.
Yeah.
So they definitely use it. The technology is awesome and it's out there.
It is.
What about intuitive windshields to send data to AI?
Right. Yeah, intuitive windshields, all kinds of stuff. Christy says she was meaning that
from pilots to send data for AI and training possibilities.
So we are collecting data. We are right now, we're building a collection tool for the F-35 that can collect data from a pilot to understand how pilots react during certain situations. And we're using that data for machine learning to kind of help predict what an unmanned vehicle should do in those similar situations.
Okay. Semi-seriously, not a serious question. What kind of stops or checks and balances are you guys having in place so that the Skyborgs don't destroy us all?
Yeah.
They become
Very important question.
So that's a great question. So I guess that depends on how you're asking the question. I'll answer one way, then I'll ask you to clarify the other way.
Also robotics.
So we're starting out with modeling and simulation. So we build this stuff and then we model it, we simulate it, and we collect data on that. You know, oh hell, this crashed. We need to maybe change the altitude or something. So a lot of time with that. And then we actually, when we move past that, we go out to the desert of California and do flight missions with Air Force flight evaluators, so that if something did happen wrong, boom, you know, they could land. Also, at this point, you know, you do have a C2 operator, which is command and control on the ground. So if something wonky happens with the Skyborg, they can take custody and land the thing.
Cool.
So you're safe. But was your question more sort of the science fiction realm? How do we make sure these things don't go rogue?
AI overlords don't wipe out humanity, I think.
So that's where the science fiction and the technology really don't work well. So I hate to say this and people are going to go, what the hell? AI is very narrowly focused. Okay, so it can do what it is programmed to do and nothing more. And so what science fiction does is more of a general AI. It's not narrow, it's general. That has not happened. I guarantee in our lifetime, it will not happen. So AI is not intuitive. AI is not like the human brain that can fill in the blanks and kind of, okay, I understand the situation, but I want to control it in a different way because I have my own motivations. Right. AI does not do that. So it's only programmed to do what it's programmed to do.
That is awesome. This is actually a perfect segue because you have a lot of experience in human sciences, human behavioral sciences, right? Mm-hmm. So we've been doing a lot of talking about technology and machines, but I would love to talk to you. We would love to talk to you about human behaviors.
Okay. That's what I was going to ask you is what have you learned about human behavior in this process?
Well, in this process, not a whole lot.
You put the human in is what you said, right? You make sure that the human connects?
Yes, I make sure that in this system, the human has the information they need to do the job they need to do. And whether that means connecting to the Skyborg, connecting to the ground control, the people on the ground, everybody has just the information they need. They don't need a bunch of noise. I need to know exactly what they need in order for them to be able to complete that mission with confidence and competence that what they're going to do is going to work. So, but Claire just mentioned a project
the reason that I asked her to do this was because we did our Clifton Strengths things, and I was talking to her about it, and I wanted to get her opinion on self-assessment personality tests, and she has a lot of opinions on them. Take it away.
This is the mother-daughter conversations we have. Self-assessment.
I love it. Yeah.
So as you know, our Clifton Strength test is a test that we administer to the whole company, and pretty much just go down a list of things, and you kind of learn something about yourself, your strengths, and it's just your strengths. It's strengths. And so that way we can learn how to lean on each other's strengths, or you can lean on your own strength. You
just when you work with your strengths, you get better in general instead of like focusing on what you do.
There you go. Let's go.
Maybe.
Let's go.
So I think strengths are great, and understanding our strengths is great also. But I think the only way you get better is to look at your weaknesses and say, how do I build those? So, and you use your strengths to build your weaknesses. And so one of the things that I think, one of my biggest about personality assessments is I think it limits you. I think you look at it and you go, well, I'm an introvert, so therefore I can never be extroverted, because you get this label, you know, and then you say, well, it's true because I took this test and it said I was an extrovert, and now everything I notice I'm extroverted. So, and that's called confirmation bias. Once we're told we're a certain way, we start focusing on things that give us more fuel in that direction. So yeah. And we don't stop to think that, you know, there are situations where I am introverted and situations where I am extroverted. And we are humans, which means most of us are socially competent, which means we have different types of behaviors in different settings.
Right.
You don't, I hope, act the same way at a baseball game that you do at church, right? Because you know which social skills to use and when to use them, and that's competence.
Yeah.
And so the other thing that kind of scares me about some of these, I mean, they're great, they're fun. You learn about yourself, you learn about your colleagues. You think, wow, I'm weak in that area, maybe I should improve. But there's a couple of things that really kind of concern me. Is I think it limits you because you say, I'm not good at this, and I even have this test to prove that I'm not good at this. And I think that's horrible. Oh, darn, this system keeps shutting down. So let me reboot. Sorry.
Turn up some merging as well.
Just so you know, we still see you just fine.
Yeah,
Okay, good. I won't make any funny faces.
But yeah, I agree. So if the test tells you you're a fish, then you're going to go out and try to be a fish, and you'll never try to be a monkey.
You're going to swim and
yeah.
never fly, right? You're absolutely right, and that's a wonderful way to put it.
Yeah.
And then let me one more complaint about the test, and then we can talk, whatever you want. So a lot of these tests are built around psychological theory. So like everybody knows the Myers-Briggs, right? And that was built around Carl Jung's theory. Good theory, but he is a psychoanalyst that dealt with very troubled people. And so from that, he builds this system, and he goes, oh, from all the people I've known and talked to, they basically fall into 4 different quadrants. He built the test. It's fun. It's fun. I'm saying, take it, enjoy it. Don't make life decisions based on, what you learn there, though. But so there is one test, and I can tell you about a project that I did for IARPA, which is the intelligence wing of a government, that actually used a personality test. And the personality test that I hold most stock in is called the Big Five. And the reason that I hold stock into it is because it was developed scientifically. So it wasn't somebody that says, I have a theory, I'm going to build this test around the theory so that people can fit within the bounds of my theory. So what it did was it took data from millions of people, and I probably exaggerate, and then they see, where do people cluster? So along all these lines, emotions, skills, where do people cluster the most? And so it was scientifically developed. The other thing I really love about this is because it gives you a range of behavior. So stuff like Myers-Briggs, you're either introverted or extroverted. Like I said before, sometimes you're both. And so it gives you you are this or that. The Big Five gives you a range. You are slightly introverted or you are really extroverted. So if the dichotomous ones, you are either one or the other, people, there's a curve, and most of the people are in the middle. So if you get somebody that scores 49, so they say, oh, you're introverted. If you get someone that scores 51, you're extroverted. They are so much more alike than where they have been, told they are. So kind of wonky. But all right, so the project that I worked on with the Big Five was we were asked by our IARPA if we could observe people playing games, massive multiplayer games, if we could observe them and make predictions about their personality, about their education level, about, their age, all kinds of stuff. And so we used the Big Five in order to do that. And the way we did it is we had 300 people who were gamers, Guild Wars gamers come in, and they took the Big Five, and we scored them. They played Guild Wars as their regular avatar for an hour. So we took all those data, and then we did not look at their Big Five scores, but 3 of us independently watched them play the game for an hour and rated them as observers on the Big Five.
Gotcha.
And so that was like 300 hours of watching somebody play Guild Wars. I never want to see it again in my
Jack
life.
would have loved it. I mean, I'm sure it was miserable for you, but Jack would have had a great time.
Yeah. So
hours already.
yeah. So we looked at their, what avatar did they pick? How'd they dress?
Right.
What was their role in the game? How did they interact with the other players in the game? All that. And we could nail it. We could tell you how old they were. We could tell you how educated they were. We could tell you whether they were liberal or conservative leaning. We could tell you their socioeconomic background. I mean, there was so many things we could tell just by observing based on that personality test. So it's not free. So if you want to take it, it does cost money. But I would be very wary of things that were really cheap or really free. I mean, they're fun, do them, but
It's always good to reflect.
yeah, they're very great for self-actualization or self-realization.
Yeah.
But like I say, don't limit yourself.
Yeah, that's definitely how I view these things too. So if you say that you build your weakness, what do you mean by that? I would like to hear more on that thought, because that is contrary to how I believe personally. So I'd like to hear what you mean there.
All right, so let's see if I could. All right, so I was always told as a child that I wasn't the artistic one. My brother was artistic, and he really truly is. But, oh, Mary, she can't draw a straight line. Jeff can take a pencil and a piece of paper and draw something that looks really real. So kind of all my life I've been taught, you're not artistic, you're not artistic, you're not artistic. So when I go to college and I have to take an art class, I'm freaking out. You know, give me statistics, I'm okay. Art, So I kept telling myself, I'm not good, I'm not good, I'm not good. But I told the teacher that the first day. I said, I am not an artist. I can't do this. I don't see 3D. I can't. That person challenged me. This is not a weakness you have. It's a strength that you can build, and helped me. And by God, by the end of that class, I was drawing stuff that I was actually proud of. But if I hadn't looked at what my weakness was, I never would have voluntarily taken that course and realized that, hey, maybe I do have a skill in this area. So I think when you just focus too much on one or the other, you don't give yourself credit. We're humans. We can grow. I'm sorry.
I said, no, I understand now. At first I was just like, well, but it was a different kind of strength. I didn't know you were bringing it into that realm. So that makes sense.
Yeah, more like taking your weaknesses and turning them into strengths instead of completely believing that they're weaknesses forever and they're static.
I just really believe you work with yourself, not against yourself.
Oh,
that
yeah.
doesn't necessarily mean that you're focusing on your strengths or your weaknesses, but like, if you want, whatever you want to grow, that's where you kind of should grow, right? Like you put that attention there. And I totally agree with the whole, like, don't, these tests, these personality tests are more of a suggestion to me of a range of things that you could be, not the ultimate Bible on who you are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you don't want to believe that a human being is static in their development.
Exactly.
So neuroplasticity, you can rewire your brain, and we're really learning a whole lot more about that. And so you're exactly right. Let's say, I'm right now I'm probably low at this, and depending on the mood I was in, my dog bit me, my daughter called and said, she's not coming home for the weekend. I'm in a frame of mind when I fill out this test, because it is self-report, which is notoriously not very reliable. I'm going to fill it out depending on how my traits that moment, that state I'm in. And so sometimes it has some influence.
I have a great example of this that you're talking about. My best friend is super obsessed with Myers-Briggs. And for the last 6 years, she has
is hers.
Yeah.
So for the last 6 years, she's been like deep diving into Myers-Briggs, and it's just something that she really is passionate about. And she tests always as something differently. And she's like, that's what's driving her, because she's annoyed that she's like an INFP, an INFJ, an ENFJ. And she's like, why do I keep testing this different?
Because she's human.
I'm like, because girl, you're a human. Stop trying to put yourself in this box.
Because you're supposed to. That's a good thing.
Right. Yeah. It's like if you're not intuitive, sorry. If you're feeling extroverted, be extroverted. If you're feeling not, to me, it's about where you are. It's a bit more, grounded. Where are you grounded? Where, how do you feel yourself?
Dude, ask her about the Big Five. Go online and look at the Big Five, because see, that will give you a score. It doesn't give you either or, it gives you a range. And so if you're looking to change, that's kind of cool, because you can take it over and over and say, wow, I am making progress in an area that I wanted to grow in.
And it's a longer test too. It's more questions.
Pardon me?
She's not stuck. Like, I don't want to understand. What she's trying to understand is, why is it, like, she's just trying to go behind the scenes and be like, well, what is the problem here with this test? That's kind of where she's at. Like, what is happening? Why is it test like this and stuff like this? But so she definitely understands all of this. I'm not trying to throw my best friend under the bus, but sorry, I had a train.
So there's states and traits very quickly, right? We have traits that are more permanent. They're kind of like us, and they describe us in general throughout our lives. But then we're in certain states. So sometimes we're in, sometimes we're happy, sometimes we're sad, sometimes we're mad, sometimes we're complacent, blah blah blah. And the way, whatever state we are in, because it is self-report data, whatever state we're in has an impact on how we score ourselves and how we see ourselves.
That's why I always tell people all the time, like, I don't need somebody to tell me who I am. I'm pretty good. I know who I am. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I hope I'm different next year.
I'm going to be someone
I'm
different
always
next
trying
year,
to grow and change and elevate myself.
Sure.
So, definitely, Jack says, here he goes, moods and feelings are in the moment, so taking these tests can affect the results, which we said. That's great. Results reflect our current present state of mind. Thank you, Christy. Yes, she is always evolving. Absolutely. Thank you, guys. But John has a very fascinating question, and I would like to turn this question back to you. How do you see the government using our personal data in terms of AI and predicting behaviors of people?
So the government can't use U.S. citizens' data. So we cannot collect data on U.S. citizens. That's the party line. I mean, it's illegal, whether they do it or not. You can roll your eyes. I can either confirm or deny, but legally we can't collect data on U.S. citizens.
What about
but we do collect data on non-U.S. citizens. So we do that. Another project that I work on, we collect data from. Well, when we have a target overseas, so Bin Laden, for instance, when we went in and that whole situation, we collected his laptops, cell phones, all the paperwork, everything came out of that. And it went to this place called NMEC, the National Media Exploitation Center. And so they are the folks, they're actually the folks that unlocked the Apple phones when there was a shooting in San Bernardino and Apple wouldn't do it. They sent it to them and they're like, no problem, here you go, here's all the data. So they open all those data. And first of all, you need to determine, are there US citizens here? And if it is, you can't legally look at it. But we can look at all their text messages, the social networking, who they talk to, who they phone, who's in their address book, their videos, which are usually pretty raunchy. And documents and stuff like that. So we collect all those data and build, basically we build social networks. So who knows who, and but the party line is we do not collect data on humans unless they know. Now I do a lot of work on privacy as well, and like the EU has very stringent privacy laws, as does California now. And so it very much limits even the publicly available data that we can collect, say through Facebook or any other social media. So there's a lot of control over that. You can, like for instance, in Europe, you can say, hey, how are you using my data? So if someone applies for a loan, for instance, are you selling the data? Are you taking the data of these people that do and don't qualify for loans to build an AI program that will predict people who will qualify and won't, make your lives a little bit easier? So you have to tell them how you're going to use their data other than what it was intended to do. And at any point in time, after they're done, they can come back and say, hey, take my data out of the system. So if you've already built an algorithm that includes their data, that's kind of hard to reverse engineer that and take out this little piece of data and go on with your life. So it's hard to do. I think more public or collecting public data than the government is. I mean, Facebook certainly does. Netflix does. They sell your data. That's a big market for them.
TV, when you purchase a new TV, it asks for a whole bunch of data. So the television companies, Samsung,
your phone.
But your phone, oh my God, this thing.
How weird is that you look at something, like a new computer, you just kind of on Amazon, and the next thing you know, every time you go into Google or something, there's an advertisement for that computer right in your face. Well, Amazon has sold that.
Yeah, I just use it so like, I want my best friends to get married. So I go Google wedding rings on one and something on another, so it'll stop popping.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
You could actually just start saying it verbally. Now you're
no, I just when we're at home, I grab Jack's phone when he's in the bathroom. Engagement rings.
Is he watching?
Yes.
So don't think for 1 second.
He's on there.
Don't think for 1 second that Siri's not collecting data while you're talking.
All right. Yeah. So Christy, you mentioned she mentioned algorithms. You just mentioned algorithms. John is asking, how about the National Security Agency? Or are they privy to our information? The NSA.
NSA cannot collect data on U.S. citizens.
Cool. That's cool. But Samsung can. So Samsung and Apple.
Right? Isn't it like a business?
Right. I guess.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Of course, Mr. Snowden kind of said otherwise, but no, legally they cannot collect data on U.S. citizens.
Right. Unless someone says Alexa does. Yeah. So
I thought it was so funny. People were, when I was getting Teams pictures, they were like, well, I don't want the internet to have my pictures. I was like, anytime you go to a store, they've taken your pictures 30 times, baby. You're already out there.
Right. This is pretty awesome. So I just want to circle it back to your technical aspect of your job in human behavior. So what you do you lead a team, or do you go in and you actually meet with people to kind of assess their behaviors and then take it back and apply that towards, or tell the people that's designing the Skyborgs or whatever systems what you've learned?
Yeah, I am the human systems integration lead for the Skyborg program. So I will go out and we talk to, I have a team that are way smarter than I am, and they all have their little niche parts that are, I have one guy who studied trust in automation for 30 years. I mean, This guy is like amazing. So we've got really smart people that we observe behaviors, we interview people, we look at old technology and say, how can we bring what we already know into this picture? So yeah, I lead a team that does actual research in each of these areas. Yeah.
So how good are you at Jeopardy?
She doesn't know about normal things.
There we go.
So neither do I, because these were all the people that were like around the dinner table growing up, and this is the shit we talked about like after school.
Bit of an Einstein situation. That's awesome. I'd rather that.
How are you at Trivial Pursuit? That's my least favorite game of all games.
Oh, I love Trivial Pursuit. Oh, sorry.
No, you don't be
That
sorry.
nerd.
Yeah.
Great dinner table.
That sounds like a great dinner table. Christy says.
Oh, we have a good time.
So the best thing about the dinner table is no electronics during dinner, ever.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
And so my mother came to visit. The kids were in high school, and she was like a crazy person on her cell phone.
She was nuts. She was awful. Her and her face page. Oh my gosh.
So Claire goes, Hazy, we don't do cell phones at the dinner table. You're going to have to put that away.
Right. I have one more
She was
question.
mad as shit.
We're actually coming to the end of our engagement, but we have one more question from Jackie, your super fan. She wants to know, what is the coolest piece of automation that you've seen? Is this just something cool? What makes you geek out, actually?
Well, actually, Skyborg's pretty darn cool. I really love that.
I'm looking to that Sky. I'm looking more into Skyborg after this.
Yeah, I do love some Skyborg.
It doesn't have to be anything super modern. It could be something that was intuitive 10 years ago that just kind of changed the game.
So a game changer for me, this is kind of lame, but not really, is Waze. And the reason I love Waze is because it is
You're talking about
because it collects
The
car. Yeah,
the map app, like
Okay.
Google Maps, Waze.
Mhm.
I'm not familiar with that. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. So it's a navigation.
It's like a navigation app. It's like Google Maps.
WAZE.
Some people use Google Maps, some people use Waze. Yeah.
I was hearing it WAYS, Waze.
So it's WAZE.
Got it.
Sorry, my accent. So the Israelis actually developed Waze, and then Google bought it. And so the reason I love Waze, I think it's so kind of groundbreaking, is because it collects data from everybody that uses it.
Right.
I mean, they don't have drones out there looking for accidents and stuff.
Yep.
So they're collecting data from all of us, and they're the real-time collection analysis of those data to inform with a visual screen the people on the road. I think that's phenomenal.
It's like a navigation app and social media at the same time. So it'll tell you if like there's a cop coming up, if there's something on the side of the road, because you can self-report as you're driving. You say, oh, I just saw a policeman sitting at the side of the road. I just saw a big plank of wood on this highway.
It was so innovative that Google copied it. Google is now doing it.
Google bought it. Yeah, they bought it.
Oh, Google bought it.
Yeah, she did get mad though, because at Christmas I put Santa on it to be the voice, and she couldn't figure out how to get it off for like 6 months. So Santa was her navigation voice for a really long time.
Lady. I use the Google, so that makes sense, because on Google the Maps it tells me now like there's a cop coming up, or there's a cop. Like, you've been nice.
That's why. Yep. So it's crowdsourced, as it's developing. And I think the fact that you're getting free information from people willingly, right? That and the fact that they can collect it, analyze it, and update it that quickly, that just is amazing.
That's what was impressive
fun.
to me also. That was very impressive. A lot of people say that's the way to go in the future. Like, you have ways getting crowdsourced information. They're not even give it to them willingly. Amazon doesn't sell any book, like physical thing. This it's just like not Amazon. I can't remember the name of the company. A lot of companies are making money off.
Well, Facebook doesn't sell anything, but they're making huge money off our data.
Right. Yeah. Facebook doesn't sell anything. There's a lot of companies making money off services that they kind of don't really offer anything tangible.
Well, you know, if you ever took time to read the things that we automatically accept because we want to add, they're saying, we are taking your data, we're selling your data, we're using your data. Your firstborn child is now ours. I mean,
I mean, who knows who you gave me away to?
Yeah.
Accepting terms and services agreements.
You belong to Apple.
anyway.
Hey, this has been awesome. We are at the end of our hour, and I want to thank you guys so much for joining us.
Hey, thank you.
I'm gonna look up Skyborg. This and
Please do.
Jackie
The
might.
Big Five.
Yeah, in the Big Five. Jackie's gonna reach out to you, I'm sure, because this is
Yeah.
awesome. These are things.
Awesome.
Next time she comes down to Atlanta, I'll let y'all know.
Come
Yeah,
into the
please
office.
introduce
Yeah.
yourselves. That would be so great
Yeah.
to meet you in person.
This is awesome.
Bring her around.
Well, thank you guys. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it
thank
was
you so
super
much.
chill.
It was so cool. And thank you everybody who watched. I hope you have a wonderful weekend.
Be
Bye.
careful on Friday the 13th, everybody.
Oh,
I think
Friday
it's
the
very
13th.
lucky day. Bye.